at the forefront of the anti-choice fight, and always a white male. I have not yet to see a black male. And so my question is, why do you think that it's always a male at the forefront of that fight instead of a woman?
Well, I have this theory that the white male anti-abortion ideologist uses the framework of anti-abortion for one purpose and one purpose only. They wish to have more white babies being born because they fear this tendency and trend in population toward more and more people of color having children. Now, they've come up with a very slick way to get around this racism by saying they want to be against abortion also because they see it as a form of genocide against black children. And you will see ads down in Atlanta, abortion equals anti-black genocide, put out by these right-wing groups that are trying to use that new ideology. We're here to protect black kids, when in fact they are behind the scenes, and there's data to show they are worried about the white race being extinguished by people of color. Fortunately, the average white brother and sister is not into that ideology, and that is why you have a lot of white sisters who are a part of the group that is defending the right of choice. So it's a part of a form of neo-racism to make that claim that these white men are protecting children.
Looks like we have a caller. Go ahead, caller.
I'm just saying, if you're not forced into sex, why is you having a baby anyway?
That's an excellent question. I don't want to throw things back to you since you're just a caller, so I will just use a discussion I had some time ago with a very good friend. If you taught the true, full nature of sexuality from a Christian perspective in the churches, I mean the whole thing, how the baby is born, what is sexual intercourse, the physiological nature of sexuality, when to have sex, how to have sex. If you taught that beginning when puberty, let's say we'll start with the puberty period, maybe you could do it before then people would learn, hey, when I'm feeling this warm, strange feeling with this guy or vice versa, I know what it is. It's not something that he will allow me to trick me into, quote, opening my legs for some sexual intercourse, particularly when he himself is a very young person. But usually, a lot of this business of sex with young women is actually carried by either older teenagers or older men, taking advantage of the naivete and the innocence of these young women, and so particularly many of them who are insecure, who are looking for affection, they're not even looking for sex, they're just looking for somebody to hold them close. If you can understand that logic in a society which teaches us to see sex and love as all twisted and turned around with what you see over MTV or Fuse television, places like that. So ignorance is the basis of which women open their legs in, whether they're black or white or whatever. My point is this. Once this situation has occurred in the environment that I've described, a society of inequality, of sexism and racism, then this woman can be 66 for all I care. The choice is the key, an informed choice. I certainly want counseling. Before anybody even go think about an abortion, they should have a full range of counseling. And once that counseling is over and the person says, I still want to have the abortion, that should be a choice. So to make my point clear, like I said, necessary evil. Let's do everything we can to make sure that there are other options for the young person, female in most cases, even in consultation with the husband or the person who gave the baby, so long as it's not a family member or it's a rapist or something like that. But let's say a loving couple where the relationship went too far and the baby is about to come and they're not prepared for it, then we should have that option. It is about choice. It's about choice.
When you mentioned about putting all the options out there, and I mean all the options, and that means with facts, with realistic facts, with realistically what happens, because I've had an abortion before, and when I went to one of these so-called counseling centers, you know, they tried to manipulate me away from my choice, and they presented abortion to me in a very negative way. You know, the lady even went as far as to tell me that if I carried my pregnancy to terms, that she would help me. Now, I'm 21, 22. I've already had a child, you know, who I had, and someone told me, don't do this, and we'll help you and be there, and that was not true. And those were people that I thought that I could trust. What would make me think that you, a stranger, that I don't know, that I'm even going to see after today, after you told me that my choice is wrong, is going to help me? And so that's just one point that I want to put out there, that if you're going to call yourself educating someone about the options, make sure that you're educating them for real and placing the true facts out there. But I'm going to go to the overhead one more time. If you have any questions, or you know someone who needs funding, or you might need funding, or you want to know more about the My Voice, My Choice Leadership Group, you can give us a call at 312-663-0336 or 0338. And so my next question was that how do you feel abortion affects the church, and what do you think is the church's part in the reproductive justice movement?
Okay, well, here we go again. Church. Again, we must think of pluralism, religious pluralism, pluralistic churches. By pluralism, I mean many. We're in the 21st century now. Right now, there are three trends in all things that we call church. I'm going to leave off mosques and leave off temples and synagogues. First, there is the fundamentalists. These are the folks who believe that the world was created in exactly 7 days. The earth is only 6,000 years old. There is no evolution. Science is hardly real. Demons exist, blah, blah, blah. So I knocked those people off the list. They are in a whole nother world, which in a real sense has really nothing to do with the kind of conversation we're trying to have. And certainly we do not consider them a part of the true Christian vision that Christ had. In fact, Christ himself was not a Christian. So when you say that to people, oh my God, you know, that kind of thing. Second group is the mainstream, the middle of the road people. These are the people, these are the churches that, I go back to my word, recognize that law is secondary to love. Law is secondary to compassion. The rigidity of, oh, you shouldn't do this, must always be measured by the circumstances, the individual person, and some things we must let God be the final judge and not try to prejudge the situation, like an abortion that a person might need. And the third are the progressive churches that I'm a part of, the Unitarian Universalist denomination, as I call it. We have always had, in the issue of race and gender and gay rights and things like that, we've been on the cutting edge of being open to wide variety of things of that nature. Now, there's a group of people called the evangelicals. They're kind of a strange mix. Here are my favorite kind of evangelicals. They say it is a moral choice for a person to do anything. We hope that they will do X, but if they do Y, i.e. decide to have an abortion, God we serve is a God of love. And if there are these extenuating circumstances, there will be forgiveness. So even if a person has an abortion in their tradition, they are still bring them back into the church, bring them back into the loving relationship of the church from a scriptural point of view, that if, as Jesus forgave the woman caught in adultery, as Jesus forgave the woman who had more than 5 husbands, that is the process of forgiveness even if you have an abortion. And they stay away from trying to point fingers at people if they decide to have an abortion of that nature. So those are the three groups that I see out there when we speak of the word churches. What is the relationship? It is depending on that concept, is love or law, compassion or criminality or criminalizing. That's how I look at it.
Okay, so I had a few scriptures that I was looking at when I was researching the topic of religion and abortion. And I've heard someone bring this topic up before, this scripture up before when I was at a conference. And that's Exodus 21, verse 22 through 23. And it says, if men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life. And so I figured by you being a reverend that you could give us a little clarity on this scripture.
Well, I look at the word mischief as the key word, or mischief is how you want to pronounce it, mischief. Mischievous. If there is a form, if it's done in a mischievous way, in a deliberate way of like an assault, like an attack, like I knocked a woman down or something of that nature, I see the element of violence as a part of that scripture. But in abortion, where a woman goes to get the help of someone, then, to me, that scripture does not apply. That scripture really, to me, applies in issues where somebody is attacking rather than somebody going in for help.
Okay, and then we have the other scripture from Job 31:15. It says, did not he who made me in the womb make him in the same one fashion us in the womb?
The idea of God fashioning human beings in the womb is certainly a powerful image. But the point is, like with marriage, we can say that not all things that are in the womb are fashioned by God. Job was a very special case. He's describing how he, in his particularities of being Job, who had been identified from the beginning of the scripture as a very special case, that he felt that he had been from the womb blessed by God and was trying to figure out, well, why am I suffering so much? I don't think that can be applied to every baby that's ever born anywhere in time. It is about Job and not about the whole human race.
Well, I just want to thank you for joining us today and giving us a religious perspective as well as a male perspective on abortion. And I want to thank you callers for calling in, and we'll see you again next Wednesday. Well, not next Wednesday, but next month at the last Wednesday of the month. And that concludes our show for the evening.
Okay,
Thanks and bye.